So Doctor Who Season 1 has recently concluded, and with this season came many differences in opinion, and so when has there ever been a better time to do a tier list? Now before we get into actually ranking these episodes, I will say some of my opinions are probably going to be very different from yours, and as this season has been pretty controversial, that is a certainty. So don't get annoyed if I put your favourite episode at the bottom, because I'm most likely going to end up putting your least favourite at the top. And so let's get straight into this. So, first of all, we got our tiers. So, there's 5 tiers. The top being one of my favourite episodes of the whole show. The bottom being alright but nothing special. And that is the range. I actually think the episodes do not get any worse than alright but nothing special. For me, the worst of the worst in this season is about a 5 or 6 out of 10. And I do have an episode that's 10 out of 10 on my list. And with that said, let's just get straight into it. So, let's start with The Church on Ruby Road. Now, this episode is not very Christmassy to start with. It's a Christmas special, and yet the most Christmassy thing is a Santa hat on the goblin. I like that, it's quite fun, but either way, this episode was fun. I enjoyed the goblins, they're messing around with people, the goblin song. I love the plot being revolved about coincidence. I think that worked perfectly. The messaging in this episode was really solid with the whole found family elements and linking that to the timeless child with the Doctor. I think that all works really well. Even if that gets further developed in the season, it worked well enough in just this episode alone. And generally, I think it was a great introduction and start to this new era, and perfectly shown what we were going to get in this following season. And so for that, I'm going to put this in the middle. Just a great episode of Doctor Who, because I think that that is what it is. It's not necessarily the best episode ever, but it is really solid, and it's been fun every time I've watched it. Now moving on, we have episode 1, and this is Space Babies, everybody's favourite episode of the season. Maybe not, but I think it's still quite good. It's very silly, it's very childish, it's meant to be. It's a family show, and so having an episode that the kids are going to love, why not? Like, for me, that's fine having that. As the first episode, people find that odd. I kind of find that odd a little bit, but it works. It may sound like a weird comparison, but for me, it's very reminiscent of 42, the episode from David Tennant's 3rd series. Everyone overlooks that, says it's bad. I actually think that episode's quite enjoyable. Nothing special, nothing terrible, just some good fun. That is what Space Babies is to me in this season. Although I spoke positive of this, it's going in the bottom. It's alright, but nothing special, because that's what it is. I see the positives, I can enjoy the episode, it's not horrendously offensive like some people make it out to be, in my mind. So moving on, we have episode 2, The Devil's Chord. Now, for me, the first half of this episode was so fun. It was exciting, had many interesting scenes, a great concept with this music god that loves music so much they're stealing it and wants everything to go quiet. Seeing the Sonic used to, like, mute sound, that was a cool scene. With that said, I did not like the resolution. I feel like it was a bit weak. I know Doctor Who has its techno-babble and crap explanations for things sometimes. I just don't like the Doctor guessing the right chord to trap Maestro, and then he messes up the last note out of like 8. The odds of that itself are incredible. And then the Beatles come back in, even though I swear early in the episode they said they were quitting and left, and they saved the day by guessing the note. To me, it's almost too far-fetched for a Doctor Who resolution that I dislike it. It's also got a very odd placement in the series when you've got the 6-month time jump that they're best friends, and then boom, it's like they've barely even traveled. There's so many things in this that when you watch as a season, it just makes the episode feel out of place, and although that shouldn't affect the enjoyment of the episode, it kind of does a little bit for me. I also feel like it's a really good idea having the god of music wanting to take away music, but I feel like it would work so much better going the Toymaker route, where the Toymaker likes games, and so makes everyone play games with him. Why does Maestro take music? Make everyone love music. I was expecting a musical episode. The fact it wasn't was a bit odd, but I feel like it would have worked better actually had it been a musical, and I think the resolution could have worked a lot better had that been the case. So for that, I've got to put it in the 4th tier down. It's a good solid episode of the show, but there's just too many things I think that let it down for me, which sucks because the first 35 minutes were so enjoyable that it was going on to be one of my favorite episodes, but that ending just left a sour taste in my mouth, unfortunately. Now we have the 3rd episode, Boom, and I love Stephen Moffat's episodes. In Rusty Davies' first era, all his episodes were my favorites. I loved his series when he was showrunner, and so this episode I was so hyped for it. I was like, gotta be a 10 out of 10. To me it wasn't. To me it was a solid 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10. And I think that's because it just didn't leave an impact. I didn't leave the episode thinking that was amazing, even though I really enjoyed it and cannot pick many faults. I think the acting in this, the performances were really good. I think the tension was done really well. I think the story itself was done really well. There was no loose ends and it all fit perfectly, even if it was very simple. It all worked, but it just didn't give me this overwhelming feeling afterwards that made me go, I love that. And so for me, it's going to have to go just above the church on Ruby Road, which it is better than that episode. I just don't think I can put it higher because I just don't get that feeling after watching it. Now, episode 4, we have 73 yards, and I love this episode. I'm going to just instantly put this one of my favorites of all time. To me, this episode could not have been better. It just left me in awe after watching it. I was just like took back by it. I wanted to watch it instantly again, and I was just full of energy after watching it. I was like, that is an episode. I don't know how it was so exciting, gave me so much energy, despite being the slowest episode of the season. Like, that in itself is an accomplishment. Also, the lack of explanations, I didn't mind. I normally always need an explanation. As you can tell, I didn't like the resolution of Devils Chord because it was explained poorly. But with this episode, I felt like it worked. They didn't need to answer questions. It didn't feel like they wanted to or needed to, and I'm happy with that. I came up with my own ideas of how this works. I've even got a video on that. If you want to watch it, feel free to do so. I just feel like everything about this worked excellently, and to me, I was shocked to see how divisive it was. That people actually had this as the worst episode of the season, saying they wouldn't watch it again. When for me, it's one of my favorites of the whole show, period. Now we move on to Dot and Bubble, the 5th episode, and this episode is a weird one because the protagonist in this throughout was so unlikable, and I will admit, I'm someone that didn't pick up on the racial microaggressions throughout this episode. I saw hints and it did annoy me, like I was just angry at this character, but I didn't quite connect the dots straight away, and the whole episode was almost harder to watch because of it. I just found her so like annoying to watch, which, you know, kudos to the actor, you did amazing, but it made it hard to watch, which probably caused its also slow pacing. It just felt slow, but the reveals at the end make this episode. Her basically killing Ricky September to live despite him helping her this far, it's crazy, and you go out and you essentially do get that reveal of her being racist and everyone else there being racist, and you're just in this state of shock where you're like, what are they doing? It's one of those endings where it almost annoys you equally as much as the episode so far, but at the same time it's so impactful that you like the episode more, and I feel like that is what makes Dot and Bubble great. For me, I can't put it any higher than just a great episode, and so I'll put it below Church on Ruby Road because I actually do like Church on Ruby Road a little bit more in terms of enjoyment. But when you look back on it after watching the whole episode, it's a great, well-made episode, just maybe not one that you actively want to rewatch. Now, let's move on to episode 6, and this is Rogue. Now, Rogue I liked in many ways. So, the episode was just fun. I love watching Ruby just enjoy herself in this period. Like, just seeing how much she loved being here was great. Seeing the Doctor messing around with Rogue was also kind of great. I love the villains, although they were very camp and stupid, and it was quite funny. They were stupid, but I loved it. Fit the episode perfect. No complaints there. I also love the resolution with the technology. We normally get terrible resolutions when it comes to weird tech gadgets like this, but I think it worked perfectly. They set the maximum as 6. Rogue jumps in when there's 6 in there. There's now 7. That's why Ruby can get pushed out, and that's how they're all stuck again. Loads of people had issues with that. I thought that was perfect, and that is probably one of my favorite resolutions to a story that uses some little gadget ever. The only thing that lets this episode down is Rogue, unfortunately, and it's not Rogue themselves, it's more their relationship to the Doctor. I don't buy it. I don't buy the Doctor being into a bounty hunter, especially not this quick. I don't buy the Doctor still being cheery while he's 4 seconds away from getting vaporized. I also just don't buy Rogue sacrificing himself this quick. There's so many things I just don't believe, and it kind of taints the episode a little bit. I don't feel that connection. I feel like if this may have been, say, in season 2 and we had a different episode with Rogue in this season first, I feel like this episode would have been one of my favorites of all time. I just struggle enjoying it more because the whole time I'm just feeling it's a bit out of character for the Doctor, pursuing this person that otherwise I don't think he would. Now, because of that, I'm going to put it up in Fantastic because I think it was, just there is something missing, and it is that belief in their relationship. Now, episode 7, Legend of Ruby Sunday, and this one for me, again, I'm going to put straight in the tier. For me, it's fantastic, and it's better than Rogue. This episode is one of my favorite first parts to a 2-part finale, like ever. I think it works so well. It's very slow, like many people say, but I think that works after having this really fast-paced short season. Having an episode where you have time to breathe and see scenes with the Doctor and Ruby, it's just really nice to get that time to grow with the characters a bit more. The intro in this episode was also great. I loved how fast-paced it got straight into the action. The ending of this episode was great with the reveal of Sutek. Everything just worked, and I thought it was brilliant. The twists as well were the best part of this episode. I'm not even talking about Susan Twish as being the avatar of Sutek. I more mean the fact that if you had the theory that Sutek was coming back or Susan was coming back, either way, you were wrong and right at one point in this episode, and I love that they were to fake out everybody's theories in this. It means everybody could have an enjoyable time with this, and I think Rusty Davies nailed that episode. So now we're moving on to episode 8, which is The Empire of Death, and did this episode resolve everything it needed to perfectly? No, it did not, sadly. It left loads of plot holes, it left loads of things unresolved, and that was a bit annoying for me. I like the reveal of Ruby's mother being a normal person. It fits emotionally funny and it's a nice message for the audience, but there's so many unanswered questions because of it. I feel like you set it up to be someone grand, it had to be someone grand. And like, why is there snow following Ruby around? Why does she have a hidden song inside her? How is she able to remember things into existence? Why is Ruby's mother wearing a cloak at the age of 15 in the dark? This cloak that looks like you probably couldn't even buy that in 2004. And then also, why is she pointing at the road sign for Ruby's name? I like the sentiment of it. Like, that was quite nice. But the people that took in Ruby did not even see the woman. All those issues for me, just, it dropped the episode down quite a bit. With that said, I enjoyed how the villain was defeated. It should have been anything but Sutek, because I feel like that's a waste of a classic villain, because he really wasn't used much. But I enjoyed the scenes in the TARDIS sequence at the end when he's getting pulled through the time vortex. That was really cool. It was really like epic and suspenseful at the start, with that introduction with everyone getting wiped out and seeing the universe go cold, and that's like some of my favorite scenes in this season. Although you knew everybody was coming back, that was still a brilliant opener. I think the thing that just takes away from this episode is the fact that you have this massive villain, you have this massive setup from Legend of Ruby Sunday, and you go into this episode and it is the most chill, basic, easygoing finale we have ever had, and I both like and dislike that. It's very slow and very confined, and I don't know if that worked fully. That could be because we're used to these massive finales, but it just felt odd for me. And so I have to put Empire of Death in a good solid episode of the show, because it is, but I'm putting it below Devils Chord because I just left feeling a little empty. It just wasn't as hype and epic as I was expecting, which that could be on my expectations. That might be my bad, but I was expecting a little bit more. Now, that is my tier list done, and as you can see, this season is so consistent, at least in my eyes. I've been saying that since like episode 4. I just feel like this season has been decent or good to amazing, and I love that. I'm glad that this first season has actually been good. Although I actually enjoyed the 13th Doctor's era, this is a great comeback to the show, and some of these episodes are so good. I do find it funny though how my least favorite episodes are the first and last episode. Anyway, let me know your rankings of the episodes down in the comments. I'd be interested to see what you have on the top, and I'd love to know if anyone's least favorite episode this season isn't Space Babies. With that said though, thank you for watching. Hopefully you have enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.